Well, your committee has backed very strongly this idea that the government should guarantee the rights of EU citizens already living in the UK. How damaging do you think that the government stance is at the moment?
Well, we took evidence from representatives of the 3 million, and they, and also the 1.2 million Brits who are living and working in other European countries, have felt very unsure about what the future holds for them since the referendum result last June. And this is about people's lives, their families, their futures, what are children going to go on and do. And we are unanimously recommending as a committee that the government should deal with the bit it has control over, which is the position of the 3 million European citizens who are here, and take a unilateral decision now to say, it's OK, you can stay.
So it was unanimous then?
It was.
You've got these leading Leave supporters, Michael Gove, John Whittingdale, they're all on board as well?
It was a unanimously agreed report by the Select Committee, and I think it has great weight precisely because that is the case. And we also think that it will assist in securing the position of the 1.2 million Brits abroad. Because when we took...
That's the crucial point, isn't it, though?
Well,
because there'll be lots of people listening to this thinking, well, the government is saying they don't want to guarantee the rights of EU citizens until they get guarantees for Brits living abroad. You are, effectively, you could say, abandoning those people to be used as hostages in the negotiations by EU countries.
Absolutely not doing that at all. I mean, first of all, when we took evidence from representatives of British citizens living abroad, you might have expected, Sophie, they would have come to us and said, yeah, please don't guarantee the rights of the EU citizens until you've sorted us out. They didn't say that. They said the government should take this step in relation to the 3 million who are here because they thought it will create the right climate. I think it's about leading by example. And in the end, does anyone seriously imagine that we're going to end up in a situation where the 27 member states say to the 1.2 million Brits, off you go, any more than we would say to doctors, nurses, university lecturers, people serving in hotels and restaurants, people working in manufacturing, picking and processing vegetables, jobs that EU citizens do currently in the UK, that we're going to say to them, right, you can go.
You say that, though, but the Chancellor Philip Hammond has said this morning that actually there are EU countries who are blocking the idea of a reciprocal deal.
David Davis said previously that most of the other member states were signed up to this. I think he said there were a couple who weren't. But look, even if there were to be a problem with the 27, is anyone seriously suggesting that we would turn round and say to the EU citizens who are here, living, working, paying tax, living in our communities, contributing, off you go? And they said to us, nobody wants to be used as a bargaining chip. They don't want to be used as a bargaining chip. This is about people and their lives. And I think if we lead by example, I'm sure we'll end up in the end with a deal where everybody gets to stay, and that great uncertainty which is felt by those citizens, the Brits abroad and the EU citizens here, will then be put on one side because we've got loads of other things to negotiate about with the 27 member states as we leave. Your
report is also talking about the need to skill up British nationals in case EU citizens do start to leave. You must welcome, then, the idea that the government is launching these new T-levels, technical qualifications, to rival A-levels?
We should always be investing more in training and skills. And the truth is that some employers of Britain have decided to take advantage of training that's taken place in other countries. And our economic future as a nation depends on us having the right skills because, you know, in a world of globalisation and change, what are Britain's great strengths as a nation? Our language, increasingly becoming a global language, our creativity, our skill, our education, all of those things, and investing in that so that every young person in this country has a chance to bring out the talent that's within them and come and take a job and contribute to our economic growth and development. So we're ready to take advantage of technological change that will continue to come, and Britain can remain a strong economy because that's how the money is raised to pay for health and education and all of the other things which we greatly value.
Let's talk about Brexit a bit more generally. The Chancellor has said that he's going to put £60 billion aside to insulate against any of the difficult economic winds ahead. That, to me, seems like a bit of an indication that things could get a bit rocky, and yet Labour doesn't seem to be providing any meaningful opposition. The Brexit bill sailed through the House of Commons unamended. That was your big chance to change the shape of Brexit, and you just rolled over.
I don't agree with that at all. There are two separate things here. The first is, do you respect the result of the referendum? Now, I was a passionate Remain campaigner. Labour campaigned vigorously for Remain, but we lost. And if you say you respect the outcome of the referendum and then don't give effect to that, because the only way to do that is to press the Article 50 button, then what does it mean? And I'd say to you, Sophie, look, there's a bit of a crisis of confidence in politics, in Britain, across Europe, across many parts of the world. Imagine what it would be like if Parliament were to turn round to the 52% who voted to leave and said, well, actually, we know better than you, we're staying. I mean, that, I think, is just, could not happen. However, all the referendum decided was we're leaving. What it did not decide is the terms on which we leave or the new relationship we're going to have with Europe. And there we've been very clear. The absolute priority is to ensure that we continue to have tariff and barrier-free trade. Now, I think the government is taking a risk, speaking personally, because it says we'd like to sign trade deals with other countries, but to keep tariff and barrier-free trade. Now, if Europe agrees to that, OK. But Europe may say in the negotiations, well, I'm afraid that sounds like having your cake and eating it. And if that is the case, if we want to ensure that business can continue to export and import without tariffs, but crucially, without delay, bureaucracy, paperwork and so on, we need to have tariff-free trade. And if we're going to ensure that there remains a border between Northern Ireland and the Republic where there isn't a return of customs posts, because when we were in Dublin recently as a select committee, the message we got from the Irish politicians we met there was, under no circumstances can that happen.
Clearly some big questions ahead, all the more need for a strong opposition. I just want to have a look at what you said last year when you were sacked from the Shadow Cabinet about the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn. You said that there can be no confidence that Labour can win the next election with Jeremy as leader. Now, since then, you've lost Copeland, your majority's been cut in Stoke. Do you still feel that with Jeremy Corbyn as leader, Labour has no chance of winning the next election?
Well, I don't resolve from what I said in the summer, but there was then followed, as you know, by another leadership election, and Labour Party members decided to re-elect Jeremy.
But you still think that's true?
But I respect the outcome of that. Our job is to work together. We are clearly facing a very challenging situation as the Labour Party. You look at our position in the opinion polls, and how, in the end, are we going to change that? By being united, but crucially, arguing for the right things in relation to Brexit, but also addressing the fundamental questions, Sophie, that face our society. What is the Labour Party for? We have values and beliefs that are unchanging, but we apply them to a world that is changing. What are we going to do about the care of our elderly? The biggest, but this is what we need to be talking about, not about the internal workings of the party and who's doing what.
Of course.
Because we have a job to work together.
But to change those things, you need to be close to power or in power. Now, you are somebody who is the son of Tony Benn. You joined the Labour Party when you were 16 years old. It's in your blood. You're clearly passionate about the party. With the Labour Party in crisis, surely this is now the time to be in the trenches fighting for the party. If things don't get better, will you step up? Would you run as leader?
Well, I'm not standing to be leader of the Labour Party, and there isn't a vacancy because Jeremy is the leader and has been re-elected by the party members. But we campaign and fight every single day for the interests of the Labour Party. That's why I joined all those years ago. That's why there are so many members of the Labour Party. But how are we going to have the best chance of persuading the British people to put their trust and confidence in us once again? It is to talk about the concerns that the British people have. How are we going to care for elderly? How do we build the homes for the next generation? How do we ensure that the next wave of technological change doesn't result in more insecurity at work, more people on 0 hours contracts, more young people who start work and think, I don't have any prospect at the moment of saving for my pension. Now, those are the big challenges that our society faces, and Labour has historically in the past been able to find answers to that. And when we turn our attention to that, rather than debating amongst ourselves, then I think we'll have a better chance of persuading the British people to put in a Labour government once again.
Hilary, Benn, thank you.
Thank you.